Arsenal won, Brighton won after game week 3 of the Premier League season, and I absolutely feel gutted and robbed right now. This is the Arsenal TV fan channel, and I welcome all of you to this community. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as I bring you weekly analysis from all Arsenal games. In the video today, we are going to break down yesterday's match between Arsenal and Brighton played at the Emirates Stadium. We are going to look at the horrendous refereeing decision that came to light yesterday, and we're also going to talk about some missed chances, a few player performances and injury concerns going into that very important North London derby after the international break. So stay tuned. Arsenal were hosting Brighton at home, and we started off quite well, getting a lot of dominance in possession as well as creating some very good chances in that first half. Kai Havertz scored the first goal for Arsenal in the 30th minute after a sublime assist by Saka, just nodding the ball over the goalkeeper to get the first goal for Arsenal in the 38th minute. And from there on, Arsenal continued to dominate possession as well as all the other key statistics until we came to the 48th minute of the second half, wherein a horrible decision by the referee to send Declan Rice back into the stands led to a significant change in the course of the game. João Pedro scored in the 58th minute, exactly 8 minutes after Arsenal were reduced to 10 men, thus making the decision by the referee even more significant and controversial. And from there on, it was mostly Brighton's game. I'm sure Brighton fans and the players would be kind of gutted after the game that they couldn't actually walk away with 3 points from there. But I think Arsenal did well. Our defenses were quite strong. We were resilient in our defense to keep the scores leveled and make sure that we took 1 point from that game at least. Now, coming to that specific decision by the referee to send Declan Rice back into the stands, to be very honest with you, I do think as per the laws of the game, that was a red card. First half, Declan Rice received his first yellow card, and that was completely justified as a yellow card. However, and if you had noticed, João Pedro in the first half had kicked the ball about 15 to 20 yards away after the ball had gone out of play, and there was no decision, no card, not even a bit of warning given for that particular incident. And this is what bothers me about refereeing in general in the Premier League. It's just the third game of the Premier League, and if you remember in the last entire season, there were so many decisions that had gone against him that actually changed the course of the title race. So when we are dealing at such a high professional level, the level of inconsistency in refereeing is actually horrendous to see. And yes, if laws of the game state that Declan Rice needed to be sent off for basically delaying the play, which I'm sure he wasn't aware of, he was facing in the other direction and he wasn't aware if the ball was about to be kicked. However, I feel if this was the case, then Pedro should also have been booked for the very same offense in the first half itself. In the second half, Pedro received another yellow card, and that meant that both teams would be reduced to 10 men, making the gameplay more fair and even. It was a great game that was basically turned to dust just by very poor refereeing decisions. And I have heard a lot of times these PGMOL referees coming up and saying that they try their best to keep the 11 players on the pitch, but action speaks louder than words, my friend, and I did not see these things being implemented in your actions, at least what I saw in the game yesterday. Coming to a few missed chances, I think after being reduced to 10 men and Brighton coming back and leveling the game 1-1, there were a couple of very good chances both for Kai Havertz and Saka to give us the lead. Obviously, we were playing at the Emirates, so though we were maintaining a very low block, we had gone into more of a defensive demeanor rather than being on the offense. We still had a few breakaways. However, we failed to capitalize on each of these, and this is where my concern for a new striker is still lingering, even though we have signed Raheem Sterling from Chelsea. The only difference between a striker like a Haaland or someone like Havertz is that Haaland converts 8 of the 10 chances that he gets, while Kai Havertz is someone who can just convert maybe 4 or 5 chances of the 10 chances that he receives. And that is a big concern for Arsenal going forward in this season, that we create a lot of chances, very little goals to show for. Coming to a few of the player performances, I think Saka was incredible yesterday. He was at one of his very best, clearly the standout player for Arsenal. Raya did quite well to keep the scores at level. There were a few chances after the red card. Brighton had gotten into completely offensive mode, and I think he did quite well along with the defense line to keep the scores still leveled. I feel that Ben White in particular had a very poor game. Mitoma was all over him on the right flank, and he was completely deceived on more than a couple of occasions. There are a few injury concerns as well for Arsenal. We already know that Marino is out for more than a few weeks now, hearing that he has gotten a fractured shoulder in training. So that is not good news for us. We would have loved to see Marino, come and play some minutes at least today and see how he could solidify the midfield. And now with Rice out of contention for the next game, I'm not sure if we are going to appeal the decision and if our appeal is even going to get heard, because you know how PGMOL and the Premier League functions. That raises a lot of concern because that midfield for me is weak now and is vulnerable to getting penetrated with Rice and Marino both out of contention for the next game. We also have Jesus, who has been injured last week itself, and it doesn't seem like he will be available for training and to be picked for the starting level at least for a few weeks now. So that is another concern when it comes to the injury. But we will need to see if Timber will be available for the starting 11 in the next game. Moving ahead, after 2 weeks, we have the very important game, North London Derby on 15th of September, and this is going to be a big one. In fact, across all Premier League seasons, the North London Derby is one game which defines the course of events for either of the teams. And I feel right now that Arsenal is a bit crippled with everything that has gone down in this game, as well as the injury concerns that we have. There's a bit of fear in my mind, but I think we should use this particular chance to prove that this is the third season that we have been challenging for the title, and there has to be some kind of a growth and maturity that we see in the players, getting rid of all the controversy that was made around the yellow card and coming out of this groove of what happened against Brighton, and just going ahead and putting their best foot forward for the club and the fans in the North London Derby. Next, I will see you for the pre and post match analysis of the North London Derby. It is going to be a great weekend of football again after the international break. And I hope you like this video, and I do hope you subscribe to the channel if you love the content. This is the Arsenal TV fan channel, and I hope the best for all of you. Stay safe and stay humble. See you, YG.